We received a letter from the National Association of School Boards. No reason to believe.
No, you didn't receive an anonymous letter. White House political staff co-wrote it with this organization, which is why the organization has rejected it. You know these facts now to be true, and yet you still won't disavow your memo. Why? You wrote a memo here that came from political staffers who've been rejected by their own organization, coordinating with the White House to try to exaggerate a threat so that they could make sure parents felt intimidated. You've told us, I wouldn't use the exact language Senator Kennedy used about that you were a vessel, but one of two things is true here. Either you were just a vessel of political comm staffers at the White House, or you yourself are in favor of politicizing the DOJ. You told one of my colleagues a minute ago that you've not read the memo from the U.S. Attorney for Montana. I'll read it to you if you want, or I'll bring it to you and you can read it. This is one of your direct reports. It's an insane letter. The U.S. Attorney for Montana takes as predicate for why he's doing what he's doing your memo. And on October 14th, he sends a list of all the counterterrorism statutes that should be considered to be used against parents who are upset about things that might be happening at their school boards. Maybe there's lots of specific evidence of violence being threatened against school board members in Montana. But his memo, or his response to your memo, includes a letter where he says that anonymous telecommunications harassment, repeated telephone calls, or repeated harassing communications should be things that are potentially brought up as the basis for federal charges against parents. Do you agree with this letter of October 14th?
Senator, I'm going to say again, this is aimed at violence and threats of violence, and I don't care whether they come from the left or from the right or from up or from down. I don't care if they're in favor of curriculum or against a particular kinds of a curriculum. We can imagine all these kind of these arguments against school boards coming from either the left or the right. It doesn't matter. Arguments against school boards are protected by the First Amendment. Threats are not protected by the First Amendment. And we received a letter from the National Association of School Boards. No reason to believe.
No, you didn't receive an anonymous letter. White House political staff co-wrote it with this organization, which is why the organization has rejected it. You know these facts now to be true, and yet you still won't disavow your memo. Why? You didn't receive some objective, neutral letter because all these people were being threatened. You are responding to a political campaign to politicize the Department of Justice. How big is the threat that American parents pose right now? When you lead a big organization, you have 100,000 plus employees. You have a lot of violence to go after. Are parents at school boards one of the top 3 concerns you face right now?
This memorandum is not about parents at school boards. It doesn't matter whether they're parents or anyone else. It has to do with threats against public school teachers, public school officials. It is not political.
I'm against all those threats. I want to know what the data is.
Well, I don't need data in order to assess.
To respond to a political staffer's campaign out of the White House.
The purpose of this memorandum is to get our law enforcement to assess the extent of the problem. And if there is no problem, if states and local law enforcement are capable of handling the problem, then there is no need for our involvement. This memo does not say to begin prosecuting anybody. It says to make assessments. That's what we do in the Justice Department. It has nothing to do with politics.
Will you report back to this committee with what you find about these threats? Because what you just said, I completely agree with. We are against violence against public officials. You and I agree. We are against threats of violence against public officials. You and I agree. We are for local police powers investigating local crimes. And there are definitely yokels and idiots that make threats against lots of people in public life. I don't minimize it. You shouldn't minimize it. You're not minimizing it. But we both believe, and in your heart of hearts, I'm pretty sure you believe that local law enforcement is more than able to handle some one idiot or 12 idiots at school board meetings. But you made it a federal issue. And I don't have any idea why, and at no point today have you offered us a shred of data. So my question is, will you pledge you will report back to this committee with the results of your investigation about how big a threat the American parent class is to school boards in the country?
I will be happy to get a report back to you, but this is not about the American parent.
I know. It's about the politicization of DOJ, and you decided to submit as a vessel, and you know better.
I'm sorry, but I don't agree with that, Senator.